Hello everyone, I'm John Bussart. I'm an HP Solutions Center engineer for Ingram Micro. I help support servers, blade systems, storage, as well as networking technology solutions from HP. In this series, we're going to explore 3Par StoreServ solutions. And what I plan on doing is showing you a slide from a popular PowerPoint that's out there, and then I'm going to demonstrate to you what that slide means within the 3Par management console. So let's begin for today. So this is the slide I plan to talk about today. It's a dynamic as well as adaptive optimization slide. This video is going to deal with dynamic optimization. I'm going to save adaptive optimization for another video. So let's kind of talk about dynamic optimization. So when we look at storage or storage systems of the past, or even local storage on a server, we kind of paint ourselves into a corner as far as performance is concerned. We select a certain RAID level and we choose a certain drive. But once we do that, in order to be able to move out of that, move to different drives or move to a different RAID level, that's pretty much a destructive process within your environment. So there's going to be downtime if you have to move a volume from one type of storage or one type of RAID level to another type of storage or RAID level in the environment. In today's day and age, we really don't want to do that. We don't need to have any downtime. We really need to adapt to business as business dynamically grows or our application maybe contracts in the environment. So we'll say that your organization is releasing a new application. Maybe it's a database or something like that. And you do your due diligence. You pick your RAID level. You're probably going to pick SAS drives or something like that. And then you place your volume within the environment. Right? And people start to use that application. You wake up one day and realize that, hey, people are really using this application and it's really taking off, and I need more performance out of the environment. With dynamic optimization, what I can do is take my virtual volume that I presented to a system and actually move that up to SSD drives if I felt like. Or if over time that database application, or whatever the application may be, doesn't need as many resources, I can actually migrate that down to SATA drives. So I have the ability to move my volume based on what business needs, and not necessarily on landing and on storage that I think I'm going to need for the future, or planning around the future. I don't paint myself into any particular corner. This volume's movable, it's portable, it's dynamic, right? I can adapt to what business drivers that are out there. Adaptive optimization takes this to the next level. So dynamic optimization, I have to actually realize that I want to move this volume and then go inside the interface and move the volume. Adaptive optimization actually manages performance through the storage system itself. So it'll actually move blocks of data around, or what they call chunklets of data around, to different storage tiers. So actually your volume will exist across different policies or storage tiers within the infrastructure. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the adaptive optimization video, but today we're talking about dynamic optimization. So let's show you how this looks inside the 3Par management console. So here's the 3Par management console. We're working on this 7400 here. What I'm going to do is go down to provisioning. We're going to expand out our 7400. We're going to look at the virtual volumes. And the virtual volume we're going to work with today is this volume called dynamic. Right. This dynamic volume is actually exported out to this system. All right, and I happen to be remoted into that system right now, and I'm remoted down here. All right, and that volume is actually this guy right here. It's pretty much filled up because I'm using iometer against that volume. So iometer is going to fill up the entire volume if you haven't used it before. If you don't know what iometer is, it's a free resource out there for benchmarking the performance on your storage system. You can actually set this up to be a pretty aggressive attack on a storage system if you want to. So it really kind of sucks the life out of a storage system if you set it up correctly. What I have here is 8 workers with 100 outstanding IOs, and my access specification that I'm running against is going to be 16K with 75% read and 25% random access inside the environment. Here's my results that I'm getting. So this is the type of performance. So let's say this is some application that we have out on our networks, and users are maybe complaining for one reason or another the application isn't performing very well, and they want you to do a little research on what's going on. Physical environment, I'm kind of nailed down to whatever storage I provisioned in the infrastructure. But with this infrastructure, I have the ability to kind of adapt a little bit to the environment. So let's take a look. Let's do a little exploring as to what's going on with this volume. So if I go down to here and I go look at performance and reports, so performance and reports is a way of getting kind of what's going on in the storage solution, moments in time type of snapshots. Whereas something like System Reporter is going to give you data over a long period of time within your storage solution. But at any rate, so let's take a look at the information we can get from this. We're going to look at the physical disks. I'm going to look at physical disk usage as far as IOPS are concerned. So let's sit here for a second and wait for this to kind of populate a little bit. All right, we're getting about 300 IOPS across our disks. It's difficult to see, but I'm using nearline drives, or it's only using nearline drives, and for some reason it's not using the fast class drives over here. So it's only using nearline drives. So that's kind of piqued my interest. But hey, I'm getting about 300 IOPS per disk. Right, so that's not so bad. So let's take a look at the performance of the virtual volume itself. So we can create a new chart, right? A custom new chart. We'll call it virtual volume IOPS. Our storage system is selected. We're going to look at virtual volumes as our category. There's that dynamic volume that we're working with, and down here I've got IOs per second, and I'm going to do read and write. And we're going to add to that. Next, get the summary screen, and then finish. So let's see what kind of IOPS we're getting out of this volume. So we've already scaled up to about 3,500. Looks like we're getting about 3,000 to 3,500 IOPS. So I'll watch that kind of chart out. Let's take a look at iometer. Iometer will tell us a little bit more about what we're getting as well. So it's shooting about 3,000, 2,900 IOPS. So that kind of jives what's kind of going on over here. So that makes a little bit of sense. But again, that's pretty decent IOPS. Of course, it matters on how many users are kind of accessing this in the environment, or what's actually happening. But I'm pretty satisfied with the performance I'm getting out of that. So let's look into this a little bit deeper. So IOPS is one metric we can look at, but we can also look at latency. So I'm going to create a new chart. We'll do virtual volume latency. Oh, I gotta actually select custom and type that in. So virtual volume latency. And select my storage system. My virtual volumes. We'll select my dynamic volume again, but this time we're going to go down to service time. I'm going to select total read and write, and just for fun we'll change the color. I'll add that on, move to the summary screen, and then finish. So let's see what kind of latency we're getting within this environment. Give it a few seconds to populate. So our service time is in milliseconds. Looks like we're getting about 175 milliseconds. So anything, above 25, 50, you want this to be really as close to zero as possible to get the best performance out of your application in your environment. So this is the reason why users on this network would be complaining if this was an actual volume that was presented to an application. It's because they're getting very, very low latency in the environment. All right, this is pretty pitiful. So let's explore a little bit further and see if we can't figure out what's going on inside this infrastructure. So let's go down to provisioning. Here's our dynamic volume, and let's look at the settings. So the settings are actually using a CPG of slow. So if you don't know what CPGs are, I'd recommend going looking at the video around chunklets and CPGs, and they talk a little bit about it. So common provisioning groups are just policies for how we spread our storage out in the environment. So how our blocks of data get spread, what type of RAID level we're going to use, as well as what type of drives we're going to use in the environment. So let's explore this slow policy. All right. We're on the summary screen, select the settings. So the device type is nearline drives that are running at 7,200 RPM. All right, RAID 6, so RAID 6 is a slow RAID level. And I'm using preferred chunks are slow, so I'm using actually blocks of data that are on the outside of the disk instead of the inside of the disk. So that explains why this is slow. Mainly the low latency is coming from the nearline drives. So where this application maybe have worked at one time, today it's not working and users are demanding a little bit more out of this application. So traditional storage, I'd be kind of stuck. Maybe I could throw more drives at my solution, but that's about the only thing I could really do. With this solution, I can actually migrate the volume from one tier of storage to another. So let's go to our virtual volume. Here's my dynamic volume. What I'm going to do is right-click on that, select Tune Virtual Volume. There's our volume, exists on the slow, and actually I'm going to select the fast tier. Now let's move that up a little bit. I'm going to click OK. And then we'll watch the migration happen below down here. So there's the task happening. So let's look at this new tier of storage that I've selected. Let's go back over to CPGs. We selected the fast tier. And this one's using fast class drives, so it's going to use SAS drives that are running at 10K RPM. All right, so I'm using a faster speed of drive. I'm doing RAID level 1, so a faster RAID level. And this time I'm selecting my chunks of data from the inside of there. So I'm going to place blocks of data on the inside. All right, so let's take a look at our charts and see what's going on. Let's go to Performance and Reports. And let's look at our physical disk usage. So right away we could see that we're starting to get writes across the fast class drives in the environment. All right, still, while we're reading and writing off the nearline drives. So of course we're going to get hit a little bit as far as performance is concerned. So if we look at IOPS, we're suffering a little as far as IOPS are concerned. And if we look at our latency, we're increasing a little bit as far as our latency is concerned. But this application is staying available within the infrastructure. It's not there's no downtime associated with this migration. Right? Remember, iometer here is still beating up this virtual volume, this volume that's been presented to it, while this migration is taking place. So we're at 92% here. We're just waiting for it to complete. Should be completed in a little bit. So again, administrators aren't necessarily painted in any corner, right? If you make bad choices originally, which we had to be very careful at one time, we could come in and create a policy. And we can create as many of those policies as we want within an infrastructure based on our storage that we have within the environment. So we can migrate this all around however we see fit. All right, so we'll keep this going. Looks like it's completed. So let's go over and take a look at our physical disk usage. Now we're reading and writing from our fast class drives or our SAS drives in the environment. If we look at our IOPS are skyrocketing, so we're up near 9,000 instead of being near 3,000. So let's take a look and see if that makes sense over here. Well, it's a little bit lower here, but we kind of bounced down a little bit. I'll expect this. Normally when I run this demo, I'll get up around 9,000, so this will pop up a little bit. Let's take a look at our latency. So look at our latency. Our latency has shot all the way down to just about 0 within the environment. Right, so I actually had the ability, to a poorly performing application, I had the ability to be able to go in there and based on a decision, be able to migrate that volume live and on the fly without any downtime. So this is the end of this video. I hope you found it educational, and stay tuned for more videos from me.